Hey everyone, welcome back to more Flush and Bad, and today I'm going to be talking about the upcoming Battle Hardened Portland, which I will be attending. And I want to kind of just have this meta snapshot open just to kind of talk about some heroes, talk about how I feel about those heroes, and then kind of talk about like rough, kind of like high level plans for kind of like what I expect out of the Battle Hardened. So I have with me here the breakdown from the Memphis Calling, I believe. I don't know if the Battle Hardened results or the distributions are published yet. But yeah, we see a lot of the kind of usual suspects like Viserai, Zen, New, Ira. Syndra, I think, was kind of like one of the breakout decks, or like one of the kind of decks that caught people off guard or surprised people, and same similar kind of thing with Kano. So these are kind of like the decks that I think I'm most worried about. If you kind of like look at like these kind of like top two rows. And then we got kind of like our middle of the pack. We got like some Phi, we got some Arakni, we got some Dio. And let's just kind of like talk through a bunch of them. So I have with me like this paint program to kind of illustrate how I feel about the matchup. Okay, so Viserai is obviously one of the more kind of like dominant decks at this point. Just a very solid hero. I think that there are basically kind of like two kinds of Viserais at this point. There's like the control-y, like chant stacky Viserai with Ninth Blade and like all that other stuff. Like that Viserai, the like control Viserai is incredibly easy. But what I've been seeing a lot more frequently is like a more aggro Viserai, which is just like very low to the ground, just sending a million rune chants off like a Mordred Tide. And that Viserai, I think, is like a lot more like I kind of struggle a little bit against that matchup if I'm not running Warmongers. If I am running Warmongers, I think that matchup gets like significantly better, like super like so much better. But I think against like the chance stacky rune chant kind of like Viserai, I feel like very confident. But I've not seen that Viserai around for like a little bit. I think that most Viserais have kind of pivoted to more of like an aggressive game plan. So I'm going to put Viserai kind of like in the yellow category. Uh, I'm gonna label Zen kind of like green. I think Zen is like I'm pretty confident in the matchup. I feel like there's not like a lot of like skill determine. There is obviously like skill determination, but like if you know what to block with your equipment and you like draw well and like that kind of stuff, like the matchup is not much like you can't really improve the matchups much more from there. Like if you're running like sensor, CNC, like obviously that gets pretty good, but like Zen, I think, is not like a matchup that's necessarily worth like devoting a ton of time to, especially kind of at more of like a Battle Hardened level as opposed to calling. I think there are going to be a lot more Zens at like a calling than a Battle Hardened, for instance. All right, New is also kind of a matchup I feel pretty confident in. I don't think this matchup's like favored for what it's worth. Like it's definitely like not bad to the point where like I think you can win like I honestly think it's around 50% of the time you can beat News. It's a very die roll dependent matchup, but I feel pretty confident in New. Like I think that I have a pretty good strategy in the New, and I think that while the matchup isn't good, I feel like I can potentially just like skill gap News. And I think like the matchup is like not favored for me, but I feel like comfortable enough in the matchup where I don't think practicing a ton more is going to really help. All right, now to Ira. So Ira is a little bit of a weird one for me. I feel like I'm kind of like pretty confident in Ira. I feel like for the most part, there are also kind of like two different kinds of Iras as kind of like there are two different kinds of Viserais. So there's like the more kind of like 2-card 7 basic or like 2-card 8 Iras where they're basically running like weakest link, CNC. I mean, all Iras are running CNC, right? But the Iras that are running like a ton of disruption effects like weakest link, amnesia, those IRAs are sometimes a little bit tricky, but normally they're very slow. So I feel like I can capitalize pretty well on just her slowness as well as like just kind of like taking turns off to kind of like set up my good turns. So I feel pretty confident against that kind of version of Ira. And then there's like the more aggressive like flick knives, like Kadachi, like knife synergy Ira. I think that Ira also is like not bad because I feel like a lot of times when we race that Ira, it ends up kind of in our favor. So I'm going to put Ira in kind of like the confident tier. All right, next we have Enigma. So Enigma, I think, is a matchup I need to practice a little bit more. The addition of flexors specifically has been like a pretty big deal for Enigma in the matchup. It feels like she can almost not always, but like almost always try to keep a mirror guy around if her hand's really good. So Enigma is a bit of a weird one. I need to practice the matchup a little bit more. So that's why I'm kind of putting in like the not confident tier. Aurora, I think I will put kind of in the confident tier. I've been getting beat like not super regularly, but by some Auroras, I think that if you like line up your draws really well, like I think you can lose to Aurora, but I think that she's kind of falling out of favor in the meta, just kind of in place for like Syndra and like some of the other more kind of like aggressive decks like Dio and Fi. So I don't really expect to see there's definitely a lot of Auroras in Portland, but I feel pretty confident in the matchup, especially with our kind of like wax on wax off package, that I don't think this matchup's like actually that bad. Next, we'll kind of talk about Arakni. Arakni also kind of falls, I think, in a similar category to Aurora, where I feel like I've kind of seen the tricks, and the wax on, wax off stuff kind of hoses them pretty bad. Like, there's definitely some like stuff that Arachnid can do, but like for the most part, like they're kind of just like they're kind of like new, but you get to run levels basically, and there's not really much like they're gaining in that matchup basically. So Arachne, I think, is like pretty solid for Zen. It's kind of like more of like a racy matchup than new, but I think that the matchup's still like pretty good for us. Next, we'll talk about Vincent. You know, she's F tier, doesn't matter. We're super confident in Vincent, so Vincent I don't think is a huge issue. Mainly the biggest thing is like playing around Cole, which is a little bit difficult, but like again, I don't think Cole is like that huge of an addition to Vincent. Like it's obviously a good glue card, but I don't think it's actually like a thing that's going to propel her to like the tier 0 of decks or anything. All right, next we are going to talk about Syndra, and I'm actually going to put her in the confident category. I think that Syndra is a very strong deck, and like the massive momentum thing is a very powerful thing to be doing. But I think that does have weakness that you can kind of like block it out, especially on chain links 2 and 3. And I think that Zen has a lot of value game that you can use to kind of try to raise Syndra. Her blocking is pretty good, but I think that with the kind of tools that we have of like wax on, wax off, as well as Zen State, this matchup I think gets a lot better for us basically. Next, we're going to move on to Kano. So Kano is a bit of a weird one. I think that there are...
Do not bring any Arcane Barrier for Kano. He will not be played at Battle Hardened Portland. Bringing any Arcane Barrier would be an incorrect play. Do not do it. There is nothing to worry about.
All right, so we're going to kind of speed through the last couple decks. So Prism actually got kind of a new tool against Zen, so I'm going to put her in kind of like the more less confident category. I think that the Angel Pump like banish trick is pretty good, so you have to be a lot more careful about how you like play around with stuff with banish. And I think that like a lot of more prisms are basically on like the 9 what's that called? 9 Wrath package, where they're basically like pumping up every herald. So Prism has gotten a lot scarier. I think that the matchup is still like pretty okay for us still, but it's definitely not great, especially with like Herald of Judgment and stuff like that. So I'm gonna put it in the less confident category just for now. Next we have I'm going to kind of skip through a couple of these. So Fang, I feel pretty confident in. I've not seen a Fang deck that can really compete with Zen yet. Dio, I also feel pretty confident with. I think that there are also kind of 2 potential strats for Dio. I think the best thing that Dios can be doing in Zen right now is that they should probably just be fat decking and then also bringing like null time zone and then trying to go for like a long-term basically like damage output game where they're basically just trying to kill us at, like over the long game, but while not getting fatigued. So I think if the Dio's doing that, which I think that there's like a cost to doing that, I think she's potentially maybe got like a shot, but I think that you can actually fatigue Dios that are doing like the null time zone thing. So I'm not super worried about that. All right, and then Fi also, I think that Fi is kind of, I think Syndra's got a little bit more favorability than Fi, so I don't think I'm super worried about that as well. Acilio is also, I think, a deck worth mentioning, especially with Battle Hardened Portland. I think the Acilio representation goes up a lot, specifically in Portland, just because there are a lot of Acilio players. So that's also kind of a matchup to keep in mind. Next, I do want to quickly mention Jarl. Jarl is actually potentially on the uptick just because the Red Light Syndra deck did very well. So I could definitely see that Jarl kind of rises in representation. I think that matchup is still like very fine for Zen. I think the only way you lose that matchup is if they line up multiple like CNC pummels and like Okanals in a row. Then you can lose that matchup, but like if they're not drawing hot, basically you can kind of just walk over them pretty easily. So I think this kind of wraps up the matchups that I'm most worried about for Portland. So if we look at the matchups that I think I need to practice the most, I think I just need more reps into Viserai, especially the more aggressive Viserai decks. I think that matchup is definitely not free, and I think the Viserais have kind of figured out that if you just go for like a very aggressive game plan, you can kind of just outrace Zen a lot of the time, even through like Zen State and stuff. Enigma also got some new tools. Prism got some new tools, and then Kano is potentially a deck that we need to kind of practice against just to see if we can maybe develop out like a plan that's at least like 50-50 or so. So these are the matchups I think that I'm most worried about. The other matchups, again, seem pretty like okay to me at face value. I do want to maybe mention that like new CYB new maybe it's a little bit difficult, but we'll kind of talk about that in the deck talk. So for today's deck tech, we're basically kind of doing a similar thing I think as last time. I'm trying to remember exactly what I changed. I think I brought in some Harmony Hunts just because I felt like our Tiger generation was a little bit lacking. Also going up to like 30-ish blues. I think I like maybe board in like 2 blue Harmony Hunts or something like that. Maybe also like up on a Wind Trucker. I've been playing around with the blue ratios a lot just to kind of see what I like. This React package, I think, is still largely the same. I think I went up on like Warmongers just because I think the Viserai matchup is a little bit scary, and I do like having that kind of sense of redundancy in that matchup. I think it's quite strong. And then we also have Shelters as kind of like a newer addition. I think I might honestly be running like a couple too many D-Reacts. Like maybe trimming down like a sink for like another yellow wax on might be prudent. Or maybe like cutting the sinks entirely for like +1 yellow wax on plus a shelter or something along those lines. I think Sync Blow is still like a very strong card, but maybe this is just like too many reacts for right now. Sensor's also been an addition that I think has been pretty solid, just pretty good in the Zen matchup, pretty good in the new matchup, pretty good into like Viserai, where you can like name like Margitide. I think this card's like quite solid. Just being able to name cards that your opponent might want to play is a very strong ability. Yep, so that mainly kind of concludes the deck tech for today. Again, we're not going to go into it. I'm still kind of like iterating on a bunch of different things. But yeah, this is kind of where I'm at right now. Let's play some games and then kind of see how it goes. All right, we got a Viserai. They get to go first, which puts them at a little bit of an advantage. I'll give them a hello, good luck, have fun. Board looks good. I've considered running Shelters, but I'm not entirely sold on it. I kind of want to just try the triple Warmonger strat. Let's see how it goes. I think Viserai is one of the matchups I think I need to practice the most, so I'm curious to see what version they are on. I feel like most of the time it's been more aggro Viserai. Some very interesting sleeves here. Pretty good starting hand if they don't pressure us a ton. All right, nothing notable here about the equipment. Face Purgatory Creepers are pretty standard. I've seen like a little bit of Crown of Providence here and there. Not like a ton. I think Face Purgatory is like pretty alright. Alright, it's pitching a Dummy Arknight for a Blessing of the Cult. Sure. So Blessing of the Cult immediately signifies to me that this is more chance stacky Viz. Alright, awkward part about our hand is pass over doesn't do anything yet. But we can also just like use it to transcend Sacred Art if we want to. I guess we'll start with the 100 wins. Ideally, I'd like to develop out the Passover, but might not happen here. I think just going for the Sacred Art is pretty reasonable. All right, so let's go ahead and start with Tiger. I think I am kind of okay to bottom a Tiger to E-Strike here. It's like fine. I just want to develop out my cards more than anything. Pretty honestly like semi-weak start for Viserai going first, especially on the more like chance stacky plan. So I'm not too upset about this. I think there are a lot better Viserai starts. Okay. I guess we're not going for E-Strike anymore. Okay, we'll just discard the Tiger. Kind of fine with that. All right, we'll roll with it. All right, draw a Rising Sun, which is pretty decent. All right, opponent will come in with a Runic Reckoning and maybe a big boy attack. All right, a Arcane Ascendancy coming in for 8. It's pretty scary. We will skip the Rune Chance here. Do we want to skip the Rune Chance? Yeah, it's a little bit weird here. I do want to like maybe potentially block with Traverse just to soak up a little bit of this Rune Chant damage. So I think we are fine skipping. But it's definitely a pretty good combo between the Runic and the Arcane Ascendancy. I've not seen this around as much. So we can block with Crown and we can block with Traverse. If we get Succumbed here, it's like pretty bad. But it's not the end of the world. We can still just send, I guess, like E-Strike, do some stuff. Yeah, it's not terrible. I think I will just soak this up. Like, they could succumb this, but I think I'm fine with that. If they don't have succumb, it's very, very good for us. Because now we're like, we're reducing the amount of rune chance they have, and then we're also just kind of like setting ourselves up for a good next turn. Okay, so what do we want to do here? They don't have the Face Purgatory anymore, which I think is good for us. Ideally, I'd like to like Arsenal this, which might not happen. Could do E-Strike Go again and into CNC, but then we're losing out on our Tiger value, which is kind of awkward. How attached are we to this Rising Sun? Because if we're not super attached to it, then I think that... I guess we'll start with E-Strike. Let's start with E-Strike and see what they do. And we have the option to get a 1 cost here and then just send the whole hand, or we have the option to just pitch a chi to send CNC. They're both kind of weak. I'm kind of fine maybe just like having the Rising Sun on lockdown for another turn and like stripping them of cards here. I think is quite good. Seems like a slower Viserai. Okay, Dousing Runeblood is a card that I've not seen in normal Viserai decks, so this seems definitely like a little bit of a different deck than normal. I think this is not the deck that I've normally been struggling into. I think the deck I've normally been struggling into is the more aggro kind of style Riptide. Or, sorry, not Riptide. What am I saying? Viserai. Have I been saying that this entire time? It's entirely possible. Alright, that's pretty okay. So we can actually start with like 100 wins here if we want to. We could also like IPHE depending on what they want to do next turn. See how it goes. Curious to see what they want to do here. It's only 8 rune chance, so we could honestly just pressure them to the point where it doesn't matter like what they have. Alright, so 100 wins will attack. Let's do Rising Sun drop. Gain a bunch of resources. We can pitch the Warmongers here if we have a CNC in hand. CNC is just the more kind of aggressive option. So I'm kind of fine with that. Alright, gain our resources. So we have 2 resource floating, we'll have another chi. So we do have to pitch this, which means we get a 1 cost, like Breed is probably the play. And I guess we're just hand dumping here. Let's get our Breed. And just send it in. Just sending some pretty good damage here. We get them to functionally 7. I guess they still have like armor blocks, so they're still at functionally like what's 7 plus 5? So like 12 basically. 12 to my 30. They do get to keep like potentially a lot more cards in hand though. Alright, we'll finish on the CNC here. Plan is here to basically just try and tempo. Alright, we get a Amplify the Arknight out of Arsenal. Pretty good to me. Alright, so they're going to become the Arknight. So I'm glad we at least took them off cards here. Alright, so they're going to go for a Dirge. Plus an Arknight Ascendancy. Okay, so they can play a Condemned Slaughter plus their Arknight Ascendancy, which is pretty good. So this will be coming in for 8. Still don't think there's a reason to pay in the rune chance. I think we're just going to take this opportunity to kind of set up again. Skip the rune chance. So what do we want to do here? Like, honestly, the greedy part of me is just saying take 8. Because like they make 8 rune chance, but like we still have Traverse potentially to deal with that, and like our hand's really good. Our hand's real good. It almost seems insane to not like want to try to like block this with like Shuko and armor. I mean, that is insane. Like, We're basically blocking 10 here if we do that. But they're at 7. I don't know. I think I'm just going to try to send it. It's a little bit greedy, but I think it's maybe worth it to try to just end this game. And then if we happen to like draw into chi or something, like the rune chants are not going to matter here. All right, so let's go ahead and just send some damage at them. We'll banish the face purgatory and then activate. What do I want to get here? One cost is pretty good. Yeah, one cost is pretty good. We'll do Draco. All right, we draw into another one cost, which is a little bit awkward, but I guess that's fine. Arsenal. We are at 13, but like we're gonna be pretty much stripping them out of a lot of cards this turn, I think. Like they don't have a stead on board yet. I think the longer this game goes, the more it favors us, especially against the rune chance stacky viz, because we're gonna be basically like naturally drawing into chi for these rune chants. So this forces the last blocks out of hand. They still have 10 rune chants. Their tunic's not up yet, so they can't just Reaping Blade and try to go for it. Okay, we now have the opportunity to IP with chi if we so desire. It's mighty tempting. Could just go for like 2 card 7 or like. So what I'm thinking here is we actually just IP with chi for these 10 rune chants. So we get 10 value out of this chi by IPing it. Alternative, maybe the alternative is just kill them. I think just kill them is just better, right? Yeah, I was thinking about like IPing the chi and maybe like Arsenal Chase or something, but like I think this is just better. Yeah, I don't see a really compelling reason to not just like send Chase Aspect at them, finish on Censor. And again, I think this kind of like does illustrate the different kinds of viz, because I think this type of viz is also still maybe floating around where it's like a lot more it's a lot more like chance stacky. It's a lot more kind of like you're running like your bigger cards. Like I imagine they're running in addition to the Arcane Ascendancy, maybe they're running the Ninth Blade and stuff. But I think we just want to pressure as much as possible here, and then like we're gonna be stripping the last card out of hand with the Censor. So like I don't think they're ever gonna get the opportunity to really use these rune chants unless we brick like stupidly hard. What's a funny card to name? Let's give them. Let's do a Nothos. Make sure they can't cast a Nothos. All right, we do slightly brick here, but it's not even that bad of a brick because we can still like just threaten pseudo lethal basically. Like we're still stripping all the cards out of their hand. Like I don't think there's a single card here that they can have that doesn't make them just block out. And the deeper we go into our deck, like the more favored we are. And it seems like they couldn't even block this, so pretty good spot. Yeah, this style of Viserai is still definitely floating around. The Slogism, that's a fucking play. All right, I like what this person's cooking. I'll give him a good game. Yeah, we're definitely cooking something here. So we got the Arcanite Senses, we got the Condemned Slaughters, we got the Slogisms. I don't know what the Slogisms are for, but that's kind of metal. And then we got the Ninth Blades. Like I think this is like the style of Viserai I'm like least afraid of, or not like this particular deck list, but like the Ninth Blade, like read the runes, like that style of Viserai. Like I just get so much value out of End State that this Viserai is not very scary to me. Kind of want to see if I can like illustrate maybe the difference between like this Viserai and potentially like another Viserai. I'll see if I can find a game, but yeah, let's see if we can get another. All right, playing against Lucas Oswald. Okay. I do potentially want to play this out. All right, let's get the Mario Slippy sidebar out. Seems good. All right, nice little starting hand. I guess the question is, do we want to Arsenal Transcend or Arsenal the Homage, or the Wax Off rather? I guess I'll go ahead and just send in the Kakara. See what they do. All right, we got an Upsticks. Sure. All right, go ahead and just double transcend it up. All right, activate Zen. Just get a blue Key Unleash out of the deck, honestly. Seems fine. I don't really like putting Key Unleash as a card anyways, so kind of fine just taking it out of the deck. Send in the Unleashed. Arsenal Wax Off, or the Arsenal Wax On will IP with the Chi. Alright, seems like they got their react to cover it. Makes sense. Alright, we've got a pretty good hand for dealing with Arakni stuff, though, so let's go ahead and pass on the Hunter's Clave. You want to mark this? I think that's okay with me. No real reason to do anything here. Okay, they mark the Black Widow. That is also fine. So we have the Wax on to cover that. If they want to pump further, we also have the Sync Blow to try to cover. So I think we'll just pass on the mark, see what they do. I will go for the Wax on first, I guess. Alright, so they will snap it. Sure. Wonder if we should have played around Codex, maybe. Alright, another mark. We do have another react for this, though. So I think we're just fine to try to block this as well. If they have react here, then we can just like discard the sync and probably be fine. Alright, go for the sync. No sync here. Alright, 2 mark the Black Widows out of the way, and then they have a Orb Weaver. They do not have a Graphene Chelicera, so next attack with stealth gets +3 once per turn instant. So notably, that's not a reaction, I think, right? Yeah, it's once per turn instant, so they can't use this as an attack react, basically. So that's pretty good for us. I think we're kind of okay to go off an Arsenal here. They don't have Tunic up, so CNC gets a little bit harder. We also have snaps out of the way, which I think is pretty positive for us. All right, finishing on 4. They have 4-card hands, pretty scary. Let's take a look at their graveyard real quick. They don't have a Leave No, which is at least good. Another Wax On is decent. All right, we're already marked, so the Hunter's Clave here doesn't really matter. All right, they may flick it at me. Sure. We are triple marked here. All right, we've got the upstick. Sure. Re-equip the dagger. Makes sense. And coming with the Kiss of Death. I guess they're not going to Orb Weaver this turn, which maybe makes sense. So we're not really... All right, they could have Persuasive plus the... What's that card? They could have that... what is that called? The Mask of something? The recurring something, the card. What is the card?
Take up the mantle.
Take up the mantle. Jesus Christ. Okay, it's been a long recording session. All right, let's go ahead and just block with Traverse, and I think we're gonna just send another levels at them, and then maybe Wax on this. If they don't have a disruption effect, I think I'm just gonna let this hit. But if it's take up the mantle here, I think it gets debuffed, so we can actually cover it with the Wax. So I'm pretty happy with that. All right, let's go ahead and go for the levels. I think we're just going to do Drago and levels and then buff on E-Strike, which means that we just get swipe here because we can Kakara. Alright, we'll do Drago. Draw Sacred Art, which is kind of not ideal. The Frailty is also a little bit awkward here. I maybe should have actually started on Kakara. I need to get into a better habit of that, I think, against Marionette. So maybe we actually want to Arsenal like Sacred Art here and like E-Strike the Wax On in the deck. That might be a stronger... it kind of depends on what they have, I guess. Definitely feels like a missequence from my side, though. I think there's the greedy line where we try to Arsenal the Sacred Art, and then there's like the more sane line where we try to Arsenal Wax On. I'm not sure which is correct. How much Arsenal Disruption does this version of Arakni normally run? They're obviously on CNC and Leave No. So I feel like Arsenaling the Wax On is just like so much safer. If they're going off cards though, like maybe I'm actually just safe to E-Strike and then Arsenal Sacred Art, because they're only gonna have 2 cards in hand, right? So maybe we'll just do buff. Then they could like Codex plus, like they get like blue in hand, dagger, Codex, CNC, but then we have Sacred Art from Arsenal, and then we can maybe block with like some armor. Okay, so we have a Leave No coming in. Guess the question is, how do we want to block, and do we want to block? What is it? I guess they do have Razor's Edge, right? They did just show us that. So why do they block with Razor's Edge is, I guess, a question for me. Maybe suggest that they have another one. This does not have stealth, so it will not get +1 if they want to flick a knife. So I think I'm kind of fine maybe just trying to go for this here. Curious to see if they ever react here. Maybe they don't. Okay, that's very good for us. So I think, are we saving the Sacred Art for another turn, or are we playing it out now? I think we want to maybe just play it out now. We get Arsenal a Tiger after this. Shelter is also not a bad draw. Maybe we honestly ship a Tiger and hold on to the Shelter. That seems good. All right, gain a resource. Oh, we probably wanted to ship Chi, didn't we? All right, we're starting with the Kakara here just so that we have. We're starting with the Kakara here just so that we don't get like Fealty trapped. All right, they're getting Trapdoor. Makes sense to me. Wonder if they have like Inertia Trap here. It's pretty likely. We'll just send in with the Tiger though. All right, another Fealty Trap, sure. That is A-okay with me. Maybe not running Inertia. Could make sense. I'm happy to Arsenal Shelter here at least. I think we could have gotten a little bit punished. I think that the correct play was to maybe ship a Chi there and not send in Kakara at all. And then maybe just hold on to the Tiger. I don't know. It's definitely pros and cons, I feel like. Alright, so we are at a pretty big tempo lead though. Alright, we got Saber Bloodshed into what? Into a Hunter's Glaive. Take Up the Mantle is making its appearance to shame me. Alright, so we're coming in for 5. They have a pretty easy way to mark with Flick Knives, so they can just fling the other dagger. So I think we are supposed to try to respect this. In which case, I think, what's the best play here? Maybe just block with Kasaya and then Shelter is maybe the line that I'm seeing. Sure. And we have the Wax-Ons to maybe bolster that as well. All right, so they're flicking the Hunter's Clave. This is now coming in for 6, and then we'll Shelter. So just denying the card draw here I think is important. Could have definitely got punished by Codex there, for what it's worth. But I think we're just kind of okay to kind of just send a CNC at them next turn. Then we get this nice little Wax in Arsenal. Alright, love to see a Justinic and another Saber Bloodshed gone. Definitely 2 very, very strong cards in that deck. Alright, we got the Wax On combo. Or the Nombo, rather. Alright, picking up their dagger. So there's not really a reason to block this, but so they're not going to be able to CNC me if they Codex here, which means they're probably just going to leave no witnesses, which means that we can probably just use a Synclo here just for value. I'm kind of okay with that. But let's obviously see what they do, maybe. I think I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of the other one. Alright, so it is a Codex, but fortunately they do not have CNC available to them, so they're just going to get Leave No. It's A-okay with me. Let's go ahead and just wax that on. Alright, I guess Kakara is a lot worse this turn, huh? It's still fine though. We can still send like decent amount of damage. We can still send 7 damage at them. That's kind of hard to block. And I guess we'll just pop the pouncing boss here. Gives us an additional like 2 value on this breed anger. I think it's okay. We can potentially use this Passover for some value on a future turn. All right, notably they do have Funnel Web, so they do have the Arsenal Banish. I think that's okay. Wax Off, a very good draw to enable our Passover. So this is the +3 if it has stealth, when it's hero bash card in their arsenal, and then persuasive, obviously. So how do we want to block this? So most likely it's coming in for 4 at minimum. We've got 1 Justin Nick to use, so pretty likely to have another. So I feel like the correct play here is to maybe just go for the Wax Off. The arsenal, like I want to try to bait them into trying to destroy my arsenal, and then if they banish the Chi from hand, it's not the end of the world. If they banish a red, it's also not the end of the world. So I think I could also go with Shuko. No, I don't think it's worth it. We're so far ahead that I basically just want to try to keep as much pressure as possible. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and pass here. All right, they will Funnel Web, which is fine. So pumps to +4. All right, they do have the Razor's Edge, so I'm kind of glad I didn't block here. Let's go ahead and Wax Off this. And then we'll pass over targeting. Is that their only leave now? That might be their only leave now. Let's grab the leave now. All right, pass it. Theta blue, it's unfortunate, but we will deal. All right, taking the Chi. Makes sense. All right, let's go ahead and... Actually, Kara might be wrong here. They have 1 Codex used, so I would like to keep an arsenal ideally. They could also just have CNC. Like we've seen only 1 CNC and 1 leave no so far, so it's pretty likely that I think it's more likely that they have a leave no or a CNC than they do a Codex. So maybe going off an arsenal here is actually fine. All right, they'll block with bonds, and then we get to send in this nice little CNC. All right, so we did, it seems like, dodge a leave no, which is good. So I'm glad I didn't arsenal there. It's definitely a 50-50, I guess, whether they have the Codex or not. All right, coming with Trapdoor, this feels like it's pretty likely to be the, what's that card? What's that card? I literally just saw that card. Oh my god. Tegan, what is that card you just told me about?
What?
What's that card you just told me about?
Take up the mantle.
Take up the mantle. Jesus Christ. Okay. I'm gonna like read that card a million times after this. Let's go ahead and just block with Tiger Reflex because I feel like this is going to be a take up the mantle plus a Flick Knives at us. It definitely seems like a little bit of an awkward block here, but I feel like this is going to be coming in for like 7, is my logic. Or I guess it would be 6. No, it would be 7 because of the Arakni ability. Okay, sure. If it's nothing, I'm also happy here. So we get to send 8 damage at them. They're forced to block, and then we have Shelter in Arsenal, which is pretty solid. Oh, whoops. All right, they have a sync. That is a-okay with me. All right, we got a nice little. Oh, they did have the. Sorry. Okay, we're gonna remember this card. Take up the mantle. Okay. So Hunter's Clave coming in for 1. Again, I don't think we care, especially with the setup we got here. So pretty happy to just not block this. They have a Tarantula Toxin, which will give this +3. So we don't want to react from Arsenal, especially because they could have another Codex in Arsenal. I do think that there might be some merit to just like wax on, wax well, maybe not both wax on, wax off, but like maybe one of them. I guess we can just like wax on this maybe. I don't know. I don't feel incredibly strongly about this. Let's reduce a little bit of damage. All right, they do have another codex, but again, we have another reactant arsenal, so we are a-okay with that. Let's go ahead and just shelter this. They're doing a really good job of dodging their leave no's and their codexes. All right, let's go ahead and get our. We can get an aspect, or we can just get a tiger's pipe, or we can get 100 winds. Which is better here? I think it's probably like aspect feels weird because it's the last aspect for the chase the tail, but maybe we don't need it. Like maybe we can combo it with something better later, and this sends more efficient damage. We get to tech the wax on arsenal, which is quite solid as well. All right, we'll pass back. All right, another leave no, another wax on. Things are good in our deck. Okay, sure. Go ahead and just wax it on. Not a single arsenal will be destroyed today. Let's just send a big E-strike at them. Right, Sigil of Solace. Is that the first Sigil of Solace we've seen? So they got 2 more of those where that came from, probably. All right, Mark of the Black Widow. I'm kind of fine just discarding here, honestly. We like discard like a Tiger Swipe and then just do Kakara plus CNC at them. I think that's okay. We have the wax on in case they want to do anything tricksy, but again, I'm kind of fine just taking a discard here. All right, so they hit us for 7. All right, so we'll banish our swipe. And then we get the mark removed as well. All right, another leave no, another wax on. This is kind of disgusting, but I will take it. I imagine it is probably a little bit tilting from their side. All right, opponent has a pickup point in hand. We'll just send a nice solid little mauling key at them. All right, seems like they have react. I say okay. Is that the last codex? Okay, that is the last codex. We have 2 more sigil assault. Like what cards do they actually have left in deck? They have take up the mantles, I guess. But I think we're at such a significant lead that I don't think it matters. So I think we're just gonna pass here. They can flick and mark us. I guess give this go again, sure. I think it's fine. And to a Kiss of Death. This could also be take up the mantle, but this could be like Stains the Red back or something. I still don't think we care. All right, Tarantula Toxin. That is okay. Important note here. I think you also basically you should never block this attack because Tarantula Toxin exists. I think that blocking any dagger with stealth is basically a death sentence against this deck. All right, go ahead and send in the Harmony Hunt, and now we can develop our chase and then also send CNC at them, which is pretty darn good. All right. Should be game. Yeah, seems like they're off of it. Yeah, so that was a pretty good game. I think Marionette is actually not too bad for Zen. They did have a lot of threats left in the deck for what it's worth. Like, pick up the mantles are definitely quite scary, especially on like an isolate or something. But it seems like we basically just drew all the answers that game, so pretty good game for us, and I think a pretty below average kind of draw for them. I do think this deck is maybe a little bit react heavier than maybe they're accustomed to, so maybe that's why they thought they could like leave no witnesses with me. But yeah, I think that Codex is quite strong into my deck specifically, or Codex into CNC is quite strong. So I'm kind of fortunate that a lot of the codexes were leave no witnesses, which ended up being really good. Well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for today. My voice is kind of giving out. I wasn't able to find another Viserai game to kind of showcase that matchup. But I think that again, like we said in the beginning, there are kind of like two different types of Viserai. There's like the more aggressive kind, which I'm more scared of, and then there's more kind of like control oriented Viserai, which I think I'm a little bit less scared of. But that game we got was definitely still a little bit scary. This is the current list. I'm still kind of iterating on some of this stuff. Like I think the React package is maybe a little bit heavier than I would like. Like maybe trimming down on some of these sync blows makes a little bit of sense. But I think that overall, like the core game plan here, I think is quite solid. But if you have any suggestions for the deck, let me know. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.